everybody. We are back with our review of episode 3, season 2 of Snowpiercer. Dan, how are you?
Doing well. Feeling a little bit like I'm in Snowpiercer right now. In New York, we've just been getting snow on snow on snow on snow. It's the winter that seems like it's never going to end. And what with, COVID and everything like that, definitely starting to feel a little bit like Snowpiercer. How about yourself over there in France, Rich?
How many cars is Snowpiercer now?
1,034.
Yeah, but I mean one, because I've just got a small apartment, so I probably feel...
we finally got to look into Big Alice this week a little bit.
Right.
You kind of feel like you're in one of those little tiny cabins that they live in?
Yeah, a little bit, but they've got supplies, 27 cars of supplies. But before we get into that, I actually want to go back to our kind of predictions last week, because I had 2 predictions last week. One, I said it would be a slower episode, more building for later on in the season, and I'm going to take that as a win, because I'll
give you that.
Yeah. I did also have a prediction that we'd do a bit more on some backstories, which I'm not going to call that one a win, because I don't really think we did. I thought we'd be going into a lot more detail on, maybe something like Audrey's relationship with Wilford, because there's obviously something there because she hates him. And I thought we might get into something like that, but we didn't really.
I agree with you. I thought that, there were times in this episode where they really had a chance to do some backstory, and I feel like they really they didn't. I had a prediction that they were gonna get Melanie out this episode. I'm not gonna take that as a win.
Well, they did at the end, right?
Yeah, I guess like right at the end. But yeah, I'm just not gonna take it as a full win. I thought that we were gonna get a little bit of a build on what they were going to be doing. So I'm going to take it as, I guess I'll take it as much better prediction than Kevin is going to be important. just put it that way.
I mean, I guess we did see a little bit. We saw that, I actually thought of you when they went into that room with like the technician people, and they're just like lifting weights and I thought you'd love it there. That'd be your place on Snowpiercer, I think.
I mean, that comment of, we're juicing up on the last steroids on Earth, all I could think about was, man, that's me to a T.
So I guess we did see a little bit. But actually, those people, this kind of brings in this idea that Wilford does have a lot of allies on Snowpiercer. And I really think this is an early on in the episode to make some kind of prediction, but this is going to be a recurring theme that's going to keep coming back. It's probably a slow one that they'll build up, I think.
So, as I was going through this episode for the second time, which I've just about finished up, I've got like 5 minutes left of watching it again. But there's a couple of things that I really think that we should really focus on and discuss in my mind. So the first one is what is most valued on Snowpiercer and Big Alice, and I'll get into that in a second. And then the second thing is the story arc of characters, because everybody seemingly has a massive amount of leeway to go from good to bad, and there's really only one character that hasn't done that, and that's Leighton. Everybody has either been viewed in a good light and then viewed in a bad light, or very importantly, one of the main characters, Melanie, has gone from okay to bad to good.
I mean, she's gone in some like WWE style heel turn. So.
But Ruthie is the same. The Brakeman is the same. Till is kind of the same.
The next one. The next one is going to be that pastor. That pastor's cutting people's fingers off.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So that's what I was getting out of this episode. I thought you're definitely right. It was a good building episode. I felt a little bit left down by some of the things. Like, you get that nice early scene of Icy Bob, and I'm like, yes. Like, I feel like the theme of our recap should be they mention Icy Bob, right? I think we really want to know what the heck this character is all about. They did this whole grand opening scene where he's sacrifice the most, and we see him go into this chamber, and you're like, man, we're gonna get it. And then they touch on it very lightly towards the end again, and you're like, man, I want to know more about this Icy Bob, but we're not quite there yet.
I actually had a great idea for a spin-off. It's all about branding. Just think of like the MCU. Let's think of like the SU. And what about this for a spin-off? Pike and the cleaner and their drug empire on Snowpiercer. And just looking at really like the dirty, the you know, the kind of in the shadows area of Snowpiercer, and you know, all the violence, and there's got to be some kind of like protection racket set up, and I really think that could be a way to go.
Pike is really, he's another one of those characters that's had such a roller coaster of a story arc that you don't really know, like, you know, on a episode to episode basis, you don't know what side he's going to come down on, you know, where he's going to be. But let's get to my first point a little bit, because I've tried to at least, you know, look at this and try and figure out what the meaning of Snowpiercer is and all the rest of it. But let's talk about what's most valued on Snowpiercer, or Snowpiercer and Big Alice. So it's strange to me because Wilford has no technical abilities whatsoever. Right? I think that's very obvious to us at this point, that he built the train. He is the money man. And if you go back to season 1, you have the, you have First Class, and none of them are useful people. Not a single one of them is a useful person.
Maybe a good message about society.
Right. Yes. If you have money, it doesn't mean that you're useful. But at the same time, the engineers are sort of revered, but they don't have the greatest life, I guess, so to speak. You know, they're up at the front, and it's better than Third Class, who are the workers. But I mean, they're kind of looked at by everybody else as almost like gods to be an engineer, but then they don't have all the amenities. So, you know, how is the society that built on the train? Like, what is most valued, and how have they sort of split everything up? You know, tailies are tailies because of the revolt, but you know, how do you keep the working class down, so to speak, in Third Class, and how do you not move them up to Second Class? And even Brakeman sort of seem, you know, Till in season 1, through hooking up with her girlfriend, more or less, was able to move up to Second Class. But how is it that the people that keep the order are the people that, you know, are in Third Class? You know, it sort of seems a little bit backwards, no?
But then you could say that in society, like, why do people who are, you know, oppressed accept that oppression? Well, there's a variety of means. It's like, you know, the system, the media, you know, this kind of like dangling incentive that might happen tomorrow, and plus a use of force as well by some kind of authority. So there's kind of a mix of things that keep people in their position, and Snowpiercer is probably just a reflection of that, you know, obviously in a more condensed way.
Right, but you know, the thing that strikes me as the craziest for everything is that it's 7 years on. Like, I understand, like, you know, I definitely said in our first recap.
Well, this is why it's fiction, because you're looking at it from an American perspective, where like it would have lasted like 6 weeks, and then people would be like, "We want our freedom," and then the train would have just blown up. So.
That's true, but you know, you do. I mean, I'm seeing this through an American perspective, and it was probably created by Americans and on a take off of a French theme. So you've definitely, you know, Hollywoodized it in a little way. But all you see is unrest and unrest and unrest. And
saying that France is famous for its protests.
Right. So you know, there has to be, you know, I feel like this is sort of just glassed over a little bit, because you know, you get Melanie pretending to be Wilford in the whole first season, but you know, now that that's gone, there still sort of seems to be a separation, in you know, in some way, shape, or form. Josie touches on that a little bit early on in the episode, where she says, you know, you asked 35 people to sacrifice themselves, and you haven't changed a damn thing, or something like that. You know, so. It seems a little bit obviously there's the outside influence of Big Alice having been attached, and now they have to forego a couple of these things. But you would think that there would be a little bit more intermingling, especially after the revolution, so to speak.
They're still in the middle of this revolution, though, because they kind of had one revolution, then were immediately hit by Big Alice, and that's kind of delayed the revolution being implemented. So it's they are kind of in the middle of it at the moment. You had a second point?
Yeah, the second point was which was the second point? Was Valiant and Snowpiercer? Oh yes, the arc of characters. So this I love. So Melanie is the easiest one because I don't know about you, but I like her now, right? She's a very likable character.
I liked her anyway. I thought she was one of the best characters, like one of the doing a good thing, even if she kind of implemented it in a bad way.
Right, I agree with you. I liked her, but I thought it was sinister.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like, the way that she ran it, you were like, there's ulterior motives here. There's something that's going on with her, and I don't trust her. I like her, but I don't trust her, especially because she had the fate of all humanity on her hands. You're like, she's doing the right thing, but I don't like the way that she's going about it. I think right now, Wilford is an interesting one because, she talks about Wilford, she being Melanie talks about Wilford to the first season, and she's like, it's me that saved, it's me that the train's running, he was the money man, he doesn't know what he's doing and all the rest of it. But I mean, the way the episode opens up, do you remember the opening scene of the episode?
This episode?
Yeah, he's lighting a joint and drinking, and he makes an announcement, and he's playing music through the loudspeaker. And you're like,
I quite like the addition of music in this season. I don't know if there seems to be much more music in this season than there was last season.
It started towards the end of last season during the investigation of LJ, where they found all the vinyl records, and that was one of the things that Leighton was able to sort of relate to LJ on, and that's kind of how he was able to break her down a bit, if you remember. But yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I like that, but he just seems, I mean, first off, every scene that he's in a palatial setting, so he seems like a tyrant, so to speak.
Well, we literally saw him on a throne in the episode, which is interesting considering it was almost like he was trying to put that reputation on Leighton last week when they were in the dining car.
Right. But I mean, even going back to the what's valued on Snowpiercer, I mean, look at Big Alice. They're all in these little tiny cabins, and he's got this one cart all to himself that's decked out with,
dog.
With alcohol and weed and big plush couches, and it sort of seems to be right where whoever the engineer is, and obviously the only engineer seemingly on Big Alice is Melanie's daughter, and Alexandra.
There's got to be another one because there's no way she was driving it 7 years ago when it moved for the first time.
Quick side note: Miles is alive. Just thinking about that.
Right, they mentioned him.
You caught that, right, with Josie.
Yeah.
I was thinking of children, and I was like, I gotta make sure not to forget that.
Yeah.
There has to be another one, right?
Yeah, there's got to be. Which kind of gone.
You caught when he's sitting in the freaking throne when they're discussing having the meeting or whatever, and Melanie says, I'll bring Ben, and he goes, no, this is a Ben-free zone. Jealousy. I think he's in love with Melanie.
Maybe. Now, probably the main theme of the episode was the relationship between Alex and Melanie. And I got to a point about 20 minutes into the episode, and I even wrote it. I hate Alex.
Yeah.
She's maybe my least favorite character. And then she kind of warmed a little bit, especially when they were in the bunk and they were looking at the map, and she was,
this is the same way I do it.
She was feeling the wall and saying, "Oh, there's a wheel off or something." And then I mean, this is obviously setting up for a situation where Alex betrays Wilford. And we even saw a little bit of that, Wilford kind of talking
like
and around this.
Episode 2, right? Episode 1 or 2, where, like, you know, we discussed it in one of the recaps where she listened to Melanie or she was going to listen to Melanie.
But even in this episode, she was, you know, Wilford kind of spoke to her. Didn't he say something like, "That's the last tears I'll see," or something like that?
Yeah. I agree 100% that I don't like. Ruthie is my least favorite character, but
is she my least? No, Ruthie's not my least.
Ruthie, I mean, Alex for me.
I quite like her because she sounds like people from where I'm from, so it's kind of it's a nice reminder of that. So
that's why I like Leighton, because in my hood here in Westchester. No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree. I don't like Alex because I first off, it's sort of an interesting point that I've been thinking about for these 3 episodes that I've been meaning to bring up. She is a little bit of an androgynous sort of human being, right? And we know through looking at Miles and that little creepy redheaded girl that is not necessary.
She's like a Chucky doll, that little redheaded girl.
She's the angel of death, I wrote down. I literally wrote the redheaded girl is the angel of death. Anybody she's attached to dies or gets their fingers chopped off. It's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know that kids aren't necessarily like this in the future, right? So somehow the corporate execs have decided to pick a girl that doesn't necessarily look like a girl and cut her hair into this sort of style and sort of made her face into something that's sort of like kind of, you know, whatever. And it doesn't really make sense to me. Like
I think it's just what is kind of in vogue at the moment, because if you watch, I don't know if you watch Star Trek Discovery, and in season 2,
that much of a nerd.
Hey, come on. Season 3 comes, we're doing Snowpiercer's out. We're doing a review on that. But there's a similar character that was introduced, not a main character, but a similar character who was introduced in season 2. So I think it's probably just something that's fairly in fashion at the moment, and just with the times and
gender fluidity and all the rest of that. Like I kind of get all of that, like, but it just doesn't, you know, her name's Alex.
You know, but I think as well, sometimes you need to watch these things and say, well, not everything in the show is created for, you know, a 35-year-old male's benefit. It's like in the NFL, people bitch all the time about the Pro Bowl. And it's like, well, the Pro Bowl's not for you. The Pro Bowl's for 9-year-old children to watch and enjoy. So don't bitch about it, because it's not made for you.
I'd like to point out that I'm 29 and a little bit more woke than you. So
you're probably Pro Bowl like a dick as well. So.
I am, man. I can sit down with some popcorn and watch a Pro Bowl all day long. I love the fact that they don't tackle. It's great. You know what I mean?
Didn't one guy tackle once? Wasn't there, like, I can't remember who it was. One guy just
like Hunter got laid out
up on someone.
Yeah. So, but the thing about her, and I know that this is once again going into a little bit more than just the show, is that she also doesn't seem like the best actress, right? And I sort of hate to say, but like, she's kind of like emotionless in the way that she talks and all the rest of it. And I kind of know that that's what they want her to be, but they could make, you know, like, she doesn't have this sort of stone face quality. She just has this kind of like blank look quality. And for somebody that's running the train, who is obviously an intelligent human being and may have had a lot, well, not may have, has definitely had a lot of emotional stunting of her growth by living with this tyrannical man.
But that's the thing. I actually think whether she's the best actress in the world or not, that's besides the point. But I think actually what they're trying to portray is this guard, you know, you wear a mask. And if you've ever read a book about any oppressive regime, you know, I've read quite a few books about North Korea, for example, and the people who've eventually defected, they talk about the same thing. This, like, don't show any emotion.
Right.
But to anything. And it's almost like that. It's like a little dictatorship on Big Alice.
A little bit more stone-faced. She looks, I don't know. there's something about her that I can't get into her character at all. And I guess we're gonna get it today on Snowpiercer Recap 3. We've gone off track into the world. I guess there's part of me that projects my insecurities about her onto the actress, right? For whatever reason. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching and I'm like, I just don't, I can't get into you I don't know why they picked you. I don't know all of this. And it may just be the character. She may grow because obviously, as we were talking about before, there's massive story arcs that they've been able to pull off. And maybe she comes around and she opens up a little bit and I start to like her, but for some reason I'm just not buying her and I'm not buying the casting decision for the time being. That's I guess where I'm going to leave it for.
Okay. I've got another question. Where do you think Till's character, or how do you think Till's character is going to develop? Because she's getting much more screen time.
She is getting much more screen time. I've been trying to figure that out as well because she is one of my favorite characters. I agree. Yeah, I really like what she's done since the beginning. Where with she's defied every single partner she's had, but in the right way.
Yeah.
And she's been able to really get over all of her insecurities. What last episode when Leighton was like, well, now you're the trade inspector or whatever, detective, thank you. I was really searching for that word there. She was able to just sort of snap into it, despite the fact that, she didn't want to, she was able to go against the brakeman in last season. She was literally
what do you think about those tattoos?
I mean, I'm always one for tattoos. I know you are. I know you're a tattoo guy. Yeah.
Well, I've actually got one there, so I can't get another one because I can't get the W there. I might have to get it on the arm or something.
No, I think so.
Or tramp stamp.
So here's what I think. I think she ends up controlling a lot more of the I know she's a trained detective now, but I think she controls somewhat the army of Snowpiercer, and I say that sort of loosely.
The mob.
Army, basically. But I mean, what?
The mob, the armed.
Yeah, because, they'll need somebody. I think Leighton is taken in so many different directions that, he's not able to run the train as a so-called, the elected official or revolutionary leader throughout the rest of the season or throughout the rest of the time. But she'll be able to, because she's got the fact that she's a brakeman. So she obviously knows how to organize his thing. She's a detective, but also she's level-headed enough that she relates to the people.
Yep.
And she stands for Snowpiercer.
Yeah, she's a good connector between.
Exactly. So I think
she's an authority figure and somebody who's defied authority at the same time. So, yeah,
she knows everybody.
And one of the main things in the story of episode 3 was that they are on this test track now in the Rocky Mountains, and they had to do this curve. This curve seems like a huge design flaw when they built it to do basically a U-bend.
Well, I think we discussed that Wilfred doesn't know what he's doing here.
Right, yeah.
It was definitely him. Like, you ever get like that, the trains when you're younger and you're setting up the trains and all right, now I'm seeming like a nerd. I got you.
Oh, like a Skylectrics or something, and they fly off.
And you're just setting it up, or like the hot rods. I'm going to seem a little less nerdish here, right?
Oh, no, just keep it on the trains. You had a dig about Star Trek. You had a dig about Star Trek. Let's talk about your train addiction.
You set up like a loop-de-loop, and like you're putting it's like these big bends or whatever, and then you set the train off and it just crashes immediately, and you're just like that's what I feel happened here, where even in the first season there was a couple of instances where this happened, and some of it was due to snow having fallen on the tracks or something like that, but it sort of seems,
which again you should have maybe predicted might happen.
In a world that's covered in ice and snow, it seems like you wouldn't really want to do that. I mean, why would you prepare for the train tracks to be covered? It doesn't make sense to me.
But then again, it stopped snowing, and this was the big thing at the
It's
start
true.
of the season, that it started snowing again.
Right. Yeah, I'm not. It sort of seems, especially when you have a center, like, if they're talking about this place in the Rocky Mountains, right, where Melanie's going and all the rest of it, like, you would expect that there would be a much easier access point to it.
It'd be on the main track, right? I had another question as well. What's going to happen with Josie? I'm a bit confused about bringing her back. I thought she served her purpose in
She's
season
going to
one.
be the revolutionary.
Hmm?
She'll be the new revolutionary.
Against what?
Against Leighton. She's going to be like unrest against, like, I think she's going to just lead to unrest from the tailies and the have-nots, because it's easy. You can have all these questions like Ruthie, right? We all know where Ruthie's alliance stands, right?
Mhm.
We know that it's with the upper class. It's with with Wilford and all the rest.
We did see, and I don't know whether this is going to become important or I'm just over-analyzing it because we talk about it every week, but we did see that little bit of thawing of relations between Melanie and Ruth when she's going over to Big Alice and she says, "Oh, can you look after Alex if I die, if I don't make it?"
And
Yeah,
early in the episode when Melanie says, she's tough, but she's great to have on your side. Never lie to her. I regret the fact that I did.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they're trying to thaw her out. It's not working. I still don't like her. But I think that Josie has to at some point be the source of unrest, because there needs to be, with Melanie off the train, that's one storyline, right? What's going to happen with the world. The other storyline being the power struggle between King Leighton and King Wilford, right? Just to use, our vision and what Wilford called him. And then you need, I guess the other one being the cutting the fingers off, right? So that's the third storyline. And then you really need something that affects everybody, right? The cutting the fingers off affects Till's story, that affects a few people and all the rest of it. The power struggle really is between the two of them. There's not too many chess pieces. You need a way to incorporate the rest of the characters, I think. And I think the best way for them to do that is to somehow have Josie, go, look, Leighton took over and now he's kind of our leader. And he's the leader on the train. And now that Melanie's not on the train, it sort of seems like he's running things. He had these 35 people die in the uprising and the rebellion. And look, we're still in the tail. And look at what Melanie did to me. And he's not punishing her for that. She's now out here and all the rest of it. So I think that that's where she comes in.
Well, this is actually leads us on nicely to my prediction for the next episode. I think it's really going to focus on Leighton. It's going to be a real Leighton episode. And I think it's going to focus on his precarious situation. He's got these two women problems. He's got the problems that he's kind of promised a lot and hasn't delivered just yet. Also, he's ever since the revolution, he's almost been propped up by Melanie as well. Or maybe not propped up, maybe that's a bit too strong, but supported anyway by the person who keeps the train running. She's not around. I think he's going to be quite precarious, and I think we're going to see a little bit, probably a bit from Josie with the problems with that. Also, we might see some problems with some of these Wilford loyalists on Snowpiercer, and I think Wilford's going to try and capitalize on that as well. So that's kind of the main thing I think is going to happen in the next episode. Also, I think what might happen, because we did see a little kind of the last half of the episode 3, you did see Alex really warming to her mother. I think that's a bit early in the season. I think that's going to be built up. So I think what we might find, this is a bit of a risky prediction. I'm not sure if this is going to come true, but I think Alex might find something out about Melanie that kind of makes her put her guard up a lot more again. So before at the end of the season, when she kind of finally betrays Wilford and everything goes great again.
So before I get into my predictions the next episode, I have one very simple question. Do we know what the people on Big Alice eat?
No, I was thinking about this,
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only person that doesn't
and I
know.
guess they eat that Jello that the tailors used to eat.
Do you mean ground up cockroaches?
Yeah.
Because we don't see any food source there. We know that they don't have fruits and meats and vegetables and all the rest of it. And the only substances that we've seen on Big Alice are alcohol and drugs.
Maybe they eat like those steroid technicians, just protein shakes and creatine.
All right, now we're getting back onto me again. I mean, I am flattered about you talking about that. All right, so my prediction is I think that for the first time, and this is a bold prediction here, I think for the first time we have a throwback episode.
Oh.
Yeah, you like it, don't you?
Yeah, Wilford with some dyed dark hair and,
yeah. I think we need to set up more backstories for a lot of these characters because I think we all want to know. There was a very small snippet of backstory in season 1, but only for Leighton and Zara.
Yeah. Oh, they're in a park or something. Yeah,
they're in a park, right? It's some weird dream state quality. But I want to see the decision of Melanie leaving Alex and her parents, Alex's grandparents behind. I'd love to see that decision. I'd love to see how Big Alex.
There's a father as well.
Right. It's the goofy guy Alexandro, right? That's why she's a little bit darker complexion.
Raffi. He's got Raffi.
Oh, fine, Raffi. Yeah. That's how unimportant he is. I'm never gonna remember his name.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, how, I'd like to see a little bit of the revolution before they get on the train.
Like there's just a world unrest, like the
yeah. How do these?
I think you saw it in America on January the 6th, right? That's just get some footage from the Viking guy storming the Capitol.
He was just acquitted, so it wasn't really revolution. It was just a bunch of people doing weird shit. You know what I mean? It wasn't organized by anybody. Let's be 100% realistic. But yeah, like the question that I have more than anything else is like, how does Big Alice take off? Like everything's dying, the world's ending, there's a big revolution to get onto Snowpiercer, and then somehow like a couple hundred people sneak off to this train that's 27 cars long, and somehow they're all the right people.
It's 40 cars long and 27 cars of produce.
Is it 40 cars? Oh, yeah, because there's 34 cars, so it's 40 cars. Yeah. So that I think we get backstory next time. Also, as a prediction to my prediction, I'm going to predict that I'm going to be wrong because so far I'm like pretty much all wrong, and I really think
zero right now.
Yeah, and I would think that this would be such a seeing as it hasn't happened yet. I don't think we're going to get backstory, but I'd love to see it, so that's what I'm going to predict.
I mean, also you got to think half of the episode's going to be Melanie in some research station, but so maybe she might have that like. Flashback or be thinking about what happened and reflecting because she's not got anything else to do, so we might see it. That's not so out there.
The second prediction is just that they just have a drug fueled. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I was just gonna say, because I talked about my spin-off series idea. The drug trade is back open, right? Because Leighton told Pike, get it back open.
Pike is right up there with my least. So he's probably right under Ruthie as my least favorite character because he's such a snake, just a slithering little snake that will do anything. That
LJ is my least favorite character.
Who?
LJ.
Okay.
But she's not in it that much at the moment, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But her and Oz, they're my two least favorite characters, I think.
Yeah, Pike is so self-serving and literally he'll sell anybody out and do whatever he can in order to make his life better, and he just doesn't care about anybody. And somehow, some way, what annoys me about characters like that in any show or in any movie or in anything is that people can't see that about him. Hey, have you ever met somebody like that in real life? You
Oh,
immediately,
after 5 minutes, you're like, you
yeah,
just would
you're a
make them
self-serving
at such a
prick.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to stay the hell away from you. And nobody seems to be able to figure this out about Pike. And if they do, they don't make it obvious through their interactions with him. So that's the reason I don't really particularly like him. So
Stick him with the ginger girl and.
ooh, I like it. And then he'll be dead real soon, or only have 6 fingers. He'll be sitting there walking around going.
I also noticed one of the Hedwigs, the woman, and I said she's been in some stuff before. She's been in a few things. She was in House of Cards.
Never watched that because it had that deep state guy, Kevin Spacey, who does things to bad things to people. It's not the reason I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it because of that? Or?
No, I just didn't. No, that was it came out well before that. I was just never a fan of it. I tried to get through episode 1 and I was like, this is really boring, and just never did it.
And she was also in Timeless as well. And she was in one more thing and I can't remember what it was.
What's Timeless?
Oh, it's great. It's like someone builds a time machine and they have to kind of like fix the past because somebody else builds a time machine and goes back and like messes up the past and they have to repair it. And she was also in Lost in Space. Is it Lost in Space? It's on Netflix.
Yeah, Lost in Space, I think.
She's got a little small role on Lost in Space as well as like the station chief.
Okay. What you're talking about with Timeless sort of seems like Tenet, which I sort of half started yesterday and then
it's a bit like Doctor Who, but like not as child friendly. If you've ever seen Doctor Who,
I haven't. Funnily enough,
you're half British. You've got to get on this. It's like part of your culture.
I was just about to say, funnily enough, in this episode, you've made me out to be a steroid freak who eats a lot of creatine, and you've sat there and mentioned Doctor Who, Timeless, and Star Trek. So I think we all know where the lines are drawn here, folks. Next time, please come on with a pair of glasses.
All right, great. That wraps it up for today.
Tune in tonight for the newest episode.
Yeah, we'll try and get it done a little bit earlier next week, the review, so you got a little bit of time before the next episode. But take care, everyone, and let's keep this train rolling.
Enjoy that flashback episode.
See what I did there? You see what I did there?
I saw what you did there. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.